It's time for another edition of PRosé with Vicki Locke and Cindy Woolley from C2 Communications.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
I'm Vicki Locke, and today I'm drinking a new wine, Cindy. It's called Toriel. I went to Total Wines, and there's kind of a wine shortage going on right now. Oh, my God. Talk about a crisis.
Oh.
And this wine is from the Wagner family, so it's in the Camus family, and it's very affordable. I think it drinks a little young right now, but for the youngest Wagner to come up with this, I think it's pretty good, and the price point, excellent, and great for book clubs or Facebook Live clubs. So what are you drinking?
Fantastic. Well, I am drinking a White Russian, which is going to make you grin because, you know, I'm allergic to dairy, but Bailey's has an almond milk version.
Ooh.
So, little almond milk,
Nice.
almond milk Russian worked for me. But I think I saw the same story you were talking about, where all of these liquor store shelves are empty, right? They're sitting off the coast in California, and I think we're going to start seeing pirates, Christmas pirates, picking up the Baileys and making sure the wine makes it to Thanksgiving dinner.
I think you're absolutely right. Talk about a crisis. And that's what we do. If you're new to the show, we drink, we talk to fabulous authors about great books. And the book today is all about a book club. And a quick story I wanted to share with you before we introduce our author. This was before Zoom. So this was years ago when you could actually get together and sit in a room with one another and drink and have snacks. And we were up laughing, talking until like 2 o'clock in the morning at a friend of mine's house. And as we're laughing, we hear boom, boom, somebody walking down the steps. And it was my friend's husband. And he's walking down the steps, and he looked like he was kind of sleepwalking. And we were all dumbfounded. He walked right past us into the kitchen, made himself a bowl of cereal, walked back up the stairs. And the funny part was, he was completely naked. So that's my crazy book club story. Now let's get into it with our guest. Pop Sugar named The Neighbor's Secret one of the best new books of October. Parade called it one of the 25 books we've loved reading this fall. Thrillist dubbed it one of 10 amazing book club reads that will get everyone talking. And the New York Times has compared it to Big Little Lies. What's not to love? We welcome Alison Heller to PRosé.
Hi.
Hi.
Happy New Year, everyone. Cheers.
Oh, you're packing heat with the
I am.
there.
I still have carpooling to do. So what I lack in excitement, I make up for in quantity. So I have tea and water.
I definitely understand, but I did notice an interesting drink on your press release, the Lolita Lemon Drop.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Vicki, that's got ginger beer, lemon juice, and some jalapeno syrup. So where did that come from?
That came from, have you ever had sort of there's a drink I've had at 2 restaurants. One is Momofuku, and one is a restaurant here in Denver called Uncle. And it's kind of like a sweet, sour lemonade kind of with a little heat situation. I'm not describing it well, but it's basically, I thought that the women in the Cottonwood Book Club should absolutely try and replicate that taste. It's such a good taste. It's like a little sour, a little hot, a little sweet. And so that is the attempt to do so.
Do you have any crazy stories about book clubs? Because that's the book club, like you said, the Cottonwood Book Club is the basis for the story.
It's that nothing as crazy as yours. I wish I had spoken to you while I was drafting. Was he sleepwalking?
I mean, later, he just said he was tired and he was hungry and he got up and he
Kind of
kind of said, I kind of knew that maybe you guys were up late, but he just he either didn't care, he didn't, but it was just one of those moments.
That's amazing. So nothing. I have no crazy book club stories. I just think a lot of good things happen at book clubs. A lot of fun bonding and discussion and kind of safe passion, kind of safe disagreement and camaraderie. But nothing like that story.
Wait,
So
you're
did you
jumping in with
did you base your book club on any book club in Colorado, or are there any links?
It's not based on any book club in
Nothing.
particular.
Okay.
It's sort of like the vibe is what was, kind of that book club support and the sort of intimacy with each other and the familiarity and the consistency of meeting, that these women are a very consistent part of each other's lives, and the gossip. So it was more trying to capture a mood than I had a specific book club in mind as I was writing.
So your main characters, Annie, Lena, and Jen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So are they based on anybody you really know, or how did you come up with the idea? It's so fun, and there's so many things going on, and this is very different from your previous books.
This is, and thank you. I came up with it. I'd say the initial kernel of it was, it was sort of about being a parent, and kind of that gap between the striving for perfection and the impossibility of ever achieving it, and kind of what's going on internally, and then looking around at all the other parents who seem to have their acts so together, and together to the extent that they can do things like bake a perfectly on theme snack or dessert for book club. And so it was really I wanted to explore that gap between the perfectionism and then the reality and the second guessing and all the decisions that you are sure you make incorrectly when you're taking care of someone else or making decisions for someone else. So that was sort of the entry point into the characters, is I wanted to take women who are kind of very confronted with the pressure of those decisions and those secrets.
I think with Pinterest, we've all got those pressures, right? It just is so amplified. And I can plan a mean party, but don't get me on Halloween snacks. It just doesn't work,
I know, and 'tis the season, right?
Right.
Yeah, I do remember going to a few Halloween parties when my kids were little, and like classroom parties, and just being blown away by the scope of the snacks. Like there were Oreos that were sort of like taken apart and reconstructed, and little legs were put on them to make spiders. I mean, it was a level of artistry that I know never in my life will I be able to achieve, but I can appreciate it. But that's what you're talking about, Cindy, right? Like
So I have one of those fail stories, and it was perfectly fail, right? My daughter was having a birthday party, and she wanted, do you know that craze where you took little cakes that were shaped like Twinkies and you frosted them yellow like Minions, and it looked so easy. It's not.
How to frost a Twinkie.
My Minion cakes turned into nuclear bombs. And the chocolate got all clogged. Yeah. Nuclear bombs. Yeah. They were.
I thought like you were like naming the minion. You're like, something bad happened to this minion.
Oh yeah. And I said, you know what? Just eat it. It's a big pile of sugar. And I even sent some over to her dad's house, so that her stepbrothers could eat it. And they were like, sugar, I said, good for them. Good for them. But we choose to be DI don't in this house because it's just safer. DI don't.
That's wonderful. I'm very DI don't. I didn't know it. I didn't have the terminology until just now, but I think that is a perfect way of describing it.
The book is called The Neighbor's Secret, and we've got Alison Heller joining us. Now, we're acting like this is a very comical book, but there's a lot of intrigue and mystery in this. And have either of you ever told a lie to protect your family?
Oh, I'm sure I have. I'm sure. Yeah,
I know somebody
definitely.
has.
Definitely. Definitely. Have you? Have you?
No, I've lied about, not really.
Not
Let me
really.
think about it. But I don't have kids, so you guys have kids, so I'm sure with this book is like the lengths that you'd go to protect your children. And what was that movie that was like Netflix? I can't remember what it was, where I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but they basically go so far as to possibly kill someone to protect their child. I mean, that's like crazy.
I feel like I should have seen that one. I must have seen it.
You had to have seen it.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you right off the bat, I don't know about the level of lies that the characters in this book are dealing with, but I have definitely done oh, we can't do that because, if there's like a weird social dynamic or a situation that I'm trying to protect my kid from, I have definitely, relied on a doctor's appointment that might or might not be happening that day, that type of thing. I have definitely done. I'll cop to that right now. Anything darker than that, I don't know. Cindy, did you? You? Or are you more moral than I am?
I Beth, oh, her mother's watching.
Oh,
She's never done anything, Nancy, ever.
See, my mom's not watching, so I can just still.
It's funny. The other day, my daughter said something about, Mom, you never said that. And I said, well, I never said it to your face because I wanted your honest opinion, So, sometimes those kinds of bits and pieces. And then, she's a teenager. So sometimes her friends act stupid. And I want to just be like, smack them upside the head and say, it's time for a reality check. But I don't hit other people's children. So that's always a good thing, right?
It's a good policy.
I don't have my own either, right?
It's a very good policy. But,
So there's a lot of vandalism in the Cottonwood estates. Have you ever been the victim of a crime? I know you were an attorney.
Yes. I mean, growing up, my house was robbed a few times. And that's sort of like, it is interesting because I remember feeling really sort of like that it was personal in some way, and I remember just even as a little kid feeling like this layer of someone's watching us, someone has it in for us, just kind of this level of it's kind of like what Jen feels going through the book. I was definitely drawing in that feeling. It seems personal, even though intellectually, it's not personal. So as far as vandalism, no, but there has it in my neighborhood. And actually, since I drafted this book, there has been some vandalism, and there has been even the drawing of the book opens with some genital graffiti. And so there has been some of that in my very own neighborhood since I wrote the book. So I think there's something about the ubiquitous of that kind of graffiti anyway. I think it's something that that is probably in a lot of places. But aside from the childhood, my memories of what it was like to have our house broken into as a kid, that luckily I have been safe from neighborhood vandalism. Knock on wood.
Really?
What kind of attorney were you?
I practiced several different kinds. I sort of started out as a corporate attorney in corporate litigation, and then I moved to matrimonial law, and did divorce litigation, and then mediation ultimately like mediation.
So how did you get to be a writer?
Well, I think there's some, I think I've always been a big reader, and I've always really enjoyed writing. And there's a fair amount of writing in law, although obviously a different kind of writing.
Right.
And so I just almost a decade ago at this point, I was sort of happy enough with my job, and I had 2 very little kids, and my dad was sick, and it was like this very full year, it was sort of, and but I was thinking, is this it? I sort of had this untapped desire to write and to do something creative. And so I sat down and I wrote my first book, and I just loved the process so much, and I loved the creative process so much, and I felt such a passion for writing and for the project, even the annoying and sloggy parts, because there are definitely sloggy parts about writing too, about every job, as you know. But I just felt such joy and got such energy from it that I was like, I want to do more of this. This is really great. And so I just kind of kept at it.
We were talking to author Robert Dugoni, who just came out with The World Played Chess, and he said he knew in 7th grade when he made up some wild story about vandalism that wasn't true, and he got so much attention he said, this is what I want to do for a living. He loved that everybody was listening, and he loved that storytelling at such a young age. I couldn't believe it.
He commanded the floor, and he was like, this is it. That's wonderful. I wish I had known so young, but I never even thought about writing as sort of a potential career or something that could be done. I was, I think, kind of too scared to really go into it, at that young age. And I think it took my being at a point of sort of relative stability, but also with the instability and sort of soul searchingness of having, a sick parent, that kind of, and thinking about your life and where I was in it, that made me sort of go for it. Like I think that is so brave and so amazing that he did that he sort of was able to recognize that feeling. I think I kept mine like deep down for much longer.
I think though, as parents, or culturally, there's a shift into the arts, whereas 20 years ago, we had very practical parents that said, you need stability, you need a job that's going to pay.
Right.
And we're at our age, we're like, no, go be an artist. My daughter's a dancer, so I totally.
Oh, she is? Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm the writer and she's the dancer, but I think that's a freedom that we can impart on this next generation, is follow the dreams.
I think you're right. And when I think about, when I was practicing as an attorney, which was sort of my, I was going toward the sort of secure, safe career. And I spent so much time doing it. And, I liked the mediation. I liked practicing that, but there were so many parts of practicing law that were not good fits for my personality. And yet I hung in there and I stayed there and I worked these really long days. And so I think this notion of finding something that you can at the very least tolerate and doesn't make you feel bad, so that your weekends aren't like this, let me piece myself back together so I can go do it again. But something where there is that excitement and that passion is, I think you're right. It's very important. And it is something that I think we kind of this generation wants to impart to our kids more.
Mm-hmm. What about the process of writing is the most fulfilling for you? Like what's that part that gets you up every morning and gets you so excited to start writing?
Well, I love thinking about it, and I love sort of building these worlds, like the neighborhood and the neighbor's secret, the neighborhood and the women in the book club. I love that. I love sort of thinking about them as though they are real people. They they become real to me. There is a certain amount that is also very difficult when something's not clicking and it's not clicking. It feels very like, oh no, I'm, very dramatic. I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm never going to be able to solve this plotting problem. So but when it's working, it's amazing and it's so much fun. And then I would say the process of revision. So when I have most of the story, or I have the rough outlines, or I know like a portion of it is working enough that it's kind of in draft forms, and then playing with that, to try and say, well, am I like taking a shortcut here, or is this really the best thing to happen? Or like that is to me the most fun, because you have the security of having the world in existence, but you can just kind of challenge yourself to draw out more themes, or get to know the characters better, or try and base things in emotional truth, or whatever the challenge is. So that's, I would say, my favorite part of it, even though I've heard a lot of people say, oh, revision's the worst, and I get that. But for me, just even getting to the part where you can revise, it's kind of, there's an element of relief there.
You said earlier that you've always loved reading. What are some of your favorite all-time books?
Oh, my favorite. Well, I'll tell you one that I read fairly recently that I think is amazing is Hidden Valley Road by Robert Kolker. Have you read that?
No, let me write it down.
It's amazing. And then, when I was a kid, I really loved the Catherine Patterson books, like Bridge to Terabithia, like kind of this real, but also very emotionally compelling. And I loved Roald Dahl's Tales of the Unexpected. He had these short stories that were sort of Twilight Zone-y with a twist, like the woman who killed her husband with a lamb shank and then fed it to the police, so they're eating the murder weapon, like that kind of thing. And let's see, I love, and I always talk about this, I love Tana French, her Dublin murder mystery, and she has a couple standalones. Those are great. Increasingly as a grown-up, I love books with a puzzle, with a kind of mystery in them, which it's so interesting, I think, with life stages and with time, because I guess I'm kind of coming around to that, which is what I liked as a kid. But then I've also gone through big rom-com phases, and Sophie Kinsella. And it runs the gamut, and kind of like whatever's in front of me at the moment, I would say. What are your favorite genres, or what's your like go-tos?
The last one that I loved was Where the Crawdad Sings.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah.
It was just so different, and I could hear the voice in my head. Yep. And I know that's going to be a movie. And with all the comparisons to your book, The Neighbor's Secret, to Big Little Lies, have you been contacted by anybody in Hollywood?
There's nothing concrete yet, is what I will say.
But that you didn't say no.
There's nothing concrete. There's nothing concrete yet. Nothing concrete. Yeah.
Cindy, what book has resonated with you this year?
So I was just going to jump back to this. The title doesn't sound like, fantastic book, but it's really an extraordinary book. It's called Anxious People by Frederick Bachman.
And I've seen that. No, that's on my TBR. Yeah, I've seen that book. And I love the title.
I was introduced to the author through a book club with the man. He wrote A Man Called Ove.
Right.
And this was suggested on my Audible, and I'm not sure exactly why I read it, or listened to it, but it was phenomenal, and it was such smart humor, and bright humor that you had to really listen to pick up. And but once you got it, it was just really beautiful. So
you made me like bump that up on my list too, because that was one that I had in sights. But I think the title's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
And she loves audiobooks, where I haven't really gotten into it yet. And since during the pandemic, we really weren't I don't know. Well, I guess we could drive, but I wasn't really going anywhere. So do you have your books? Are they audiobooks as well?
My book, yeah, they're audiobooks. And the narrator she's phenomenal. She's great. So I've only listened to snippets, but and I've people who, because there are a lot. I tend to like the actual physical book. That is my
Me too.
favorite. I'll do e-readers when, because of convenience, but my favorite is just same as you, Vicki, like just picking up the book and having the actual book and being able to flip. But there are a lot of people in my life who only do audio, and so I've heard some really, really great reviews of the audiobook. So everyone should check it out.
And last week we had Heather Morris on, and she wrote The Tattooist of Auschwitz.
Yeah.
And the new book, and she's in Australia, and it was Dame Judi Dench's daughter did the voiceover. So I started listening. She sounds, and it's her daughter. She sounds just like her mom. It really sucked me in for the first time. I could see what Cindy was saying. I'm like, okay, yeah, I could totally just listen to this.
Yeah. We on car trips, we've gotten into audiobooks, and I see it that like I definitely see the appeal. And especially I do have to say, when there's someone with a British accent, it elevates the whole game, right? But
Right.
but it does seem, and there have been a few times that we have been so into the audiobook that we have, like, I remember one car trip, we were driving to the mountains in Colorado, and we came back, and then we brought the audiobook in and like played it in our living room, and then just all sort of sat there and listened, which is saying a lot after a car trip. That was by I'm blanking on the name, but I think it was by Lauren Walk. It was I think a middle grade book. But really, really good. So anyway, so I do see the appeal too. I just worry that if I'm listening to a book and I'm going to want to be doing other things, and then I might not, like you were saying, Cindy, with paying attention, like I just feel it might sort of occupy a part of my brain that's not front and center.
I tell you, as many as I've listened to on car trips or in the evening, or turn it on while I'm soaking in the tub, it's just perfect, because I totally listen to the story, and I feel like I'm swept away without the extra work. Because when you're on a computer all day, like shoving something else in front of my face
I get that.
It's hard on the eyes.
And also, the older I get, the more like the vision.
Yeah.
The more it's a thing.
Well, before we let you go, what's next for you?
I am working on my next book, and I'm very excited. I will say I'm alternately excited and horrified, and which is I think right where I'm supposed to be at this point. And so
is it going to be another thriller?
It's another thriller. I think it might actually, at this point, don't hold me to this, but I think it might be sort of more of a thriller, because I think The Neighbor's Secret is there's a mystery and there are secrets, but it's more, I'd say it's more of the slow reveal. And this might have a little more action, twists and turns, at least the way I'm envisioning it now. That could change, but I'm excited about it. And it's been a really, really fun thing to sort of work on throughout this month as The Neighbor's Secret goes out in the world. It's always nice to have something, that it's just like me in my office working on. It's a good feeling. So I've enjoyed that. So that's what's next.
Well, great. The book is The Neighbor's Secret. You can find out more about it on our website. You can buy it wherever books are sold, and I'm sure you love the local bookstores and you love to promote them. And I'm sure there's some great ones in Colorado where you are.
There are the Tattered Cover, Book Bar. Yeah, it's a great one.
And it goes great with a good red wine.
Or even a tea. Thank you so much for having me. This has been lovely, lovely, lovely. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank
you too. Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of PRosé with Vicky Locke and Cindy Woolley from C2 Communications.